The evening of December 26th. Earlier that day, JonBenet's body was found and the street outside was quiet.
They brought JonBenet's body out past the candy canes that were decorating the front of the house, and there were only like 2 reporters outside to capture that. And then the storm happened.
JonBenet Ramsey, the little girl in Colorado, was murdered.
Beauty queen JonBenet.
JonBenet's murder has frightened residents of Boulder.
This case had everything. It had a beautiful little girl murdered, found in her home, her parents as suspects, videotape of her in beauty pageants.
It touched every parent's heart. This was a child who was put to bed by her parents and never woke up. That's every parent's nightmare.
Hundreds of reporters descended on the small city of Boulder, including Craig Lewis of the supermarket tabloid The Globe. His marching orders were clear.
When the beauty pageant pictures came out and they put JonBenet on the cover of the magazine, they sold an extra 500,000 copies a week. They said, we want a story a week, every week. We don't care what the story is. We just want to put JonBenet's picture on the cover.
Those pageant videos raised eyebrows, but for some, so did the Ramseys' behavior. Carol McKinley is a veteran Colorado reporter.
John Ramsey got on the phone right after his daughter's body was found to his pilot to get him out of town. JonBenet's body's lying under the Christmas tree.
It was reported that shortly after you found your daughter's body, that you called the pilot of your plane to arrange a flight to Atlanta. Is that true?
I did. Police took the house over. We had nowhere to go. We wanted to go home.
They didn't want to talk to the police. They lawyered up right away.
The Ramseys agreed to give handwriting, hair, and blood samples. Still, they refused formal interviews with the police.
At this point, they haven't interviewed the mother or father. Not surprisingly, they're still very grief-stricken. They have not been in any kind of condition to be interviewed.
There was no evidence of a break-in. There was no jimmying on the front door. There was no back door crashed in. There were 4 people in that house, and 1 died overnight. So everyone inside was a suspect.
I think the primary reason the focus so quickly turned to the Ramseys was you had that ransom note. Who would write a 3-page rambling ransom note other than someone trying to cover their tracks? Who was in the house?
When you realized that you two were the prime suspects, what did you think? What did you feel? What did you say?
Well, we were outraged. We were shocked. How could they think that? We were a normal family.
You just can't believe it. We're suffering from having lost our child. And then for someone to accuse you, it's just, you can't believe that that would happen.
The book says that parents always did it. And that became the conclusion. The tragedy of the police investigation was that it ended on December 26th.
Their 15-room mansion was now a crime scene. And what investigators soon learned was that some items used by the killer belonged to Patsy Ramsey. The ransom note and a second draft note, police say, written on her notepad. The paintbrush used as part of the garrote came from Patsy's art supplies. There were even fibers from the black and red check blazer she wore that night stuck to the duct tape covering JonBenet's mouth.
It was a red jacket all over the place downstairs, including on the underside of the duct tape, and that was very, very important. But there are problems because Patsy lived in that house. Would those fibers have been there anyway?
3 days after JonBenet died, the Ramseys held a memorial service for their daughter. She was buried in Atlanta beside her half-sister Beth, John's daughter by his first wife. But 24 hours later, they surprised everyone, breaking their silence on television.
You wanted to talk now.
They held everybody off with layers of lawyers and friends, and then the next thing the police knew, they were on CNN.
If anyone knows anything, please, please help us.
And as a mother, my heart went out to this couple. But my journalistic brain said to me, this isn't right. They should be talking to the police, not the public via cable television network.
John Ramsey says it's an interview he now regrets doing.
5 days after the murder, you did an interview on CNN. Why did you do that?
We did it reluctantly and at the insistence of some friends who could see that we were being painted as guilty.
Back in Boulder, the tips were pouring in. At the time of JonBenet's murder, there were reportedly 38 registered sex offenders living within 2 miles of the family's home. Dozens of suspects, from family friends to the Ramseys' housekeeper, were checked out and eliminated. Even JonBenet's 9-year-old brother Burke was questioned by a child psychologist. The video shown for the first time this year on Dr. Phil.
What do you think happened to your sister? Phil? What do you think that happened? I think that someone took her very quietly and took her down the basement. And then took her knife out and something like that. Or maybe a hammer in her head, maybe.
I want to say something to the person or persons that took this baby from us. The list of suspects narrows. Soon there will be no one on the list but you.
But the months passed with no arrest, and the police had not yet asked the Ramseys all the questions they wanted. The couple's lawyers set conditions.
The Ramseys' attorneys wanted all the questions. They said they wouldn't go in for an interview with the police because they didn't know what the police were going to ask.
As the standoff continued, speculation about their motives grew ever more lurid. Was John Ramsey a pedophile? Did Patsy murder her own daughter? The tabloids were having a field day, even speculating about a motive.
Let me give the motive that is ascribed to you.
Okay.
You were downstairs, maybe she came down, she said, "Mommy, I wet my bed." You said, "Again, JonBenet," and you either pushed her or you hit her, you were exhausted, you were furious. You did it.
You have a child. Would you get up in the middle of the night and slaughter your child? We're parents. We love our children.
These are the two major motives. Either you sexually molested her or you snapped because primarily she was
Let me tell you something.
bedwetting.
I'm a cancer survivor of stage 4 cancer. John has lost a child in an automobile accident. That completely changes your outlook. When you are standing on the brink of death with a terminal illness, your priorities suddenly line up in a row, and you know exactly what the important things are in life. And bedwetting is totally insignificant.
Did either of you for a moment suspect each other?
No.
Not for
Absolutely
a
not
minute.
for a microsecond.
The Ramseys insisted that an intruder had broken into their house.
Does it sound possible that a killer would sit for hours and hours in your house?
That house was so
Sure.
rambling. There were so many hiding places.
Really?
He could be hidden for a week and we wouldn't find him.